And you might be more familiar with oil and hearing that in the news. And oil is a thick black liquid fossil fuel. Okay, it forms from the remains of small animals, algae, and other organisms that lived in oceans and shallow inland seas hundreds of millions of years ago. So hundreds of millions of years ago, that's a long time. It takes all that time for it to actually form into oil, which is another reason why that's non-renewable. And you might have also heard the word petroleum. Petroleum is another name for oil, okay? And petroleum accounts for more than 1/3 of the energy produced in the whole world. So the fuels for most cars, airplanes, trains, and ships come from petroleum. And now most oil deposits are going to be located in um, underground in tiny holes. In tiny holes in sandstone or limestone. So that oil is kind of like soaked up like a sponge inside that sandstone or limestone. So the oil first must be drilled and then pumped out of the ground. And the first type of oil that's pumped from the ground, it's called crude oil. And the crude oil undergoes a process where it is heated and separated into fuels and other products at a place called a refinery. Okay, so crude oil undergoes a process where it's heated and separated into fuels and other products at a place called a refinery. Okay, so let's take a look. So you can see this is a picture of an oil rig. Okay, so it has to dig down and pump that out of the ground. You see a lot of those in Texas and of course you know in the Middle East. Okay, and then it heats these things up. It heats that crude oil that it gets out of the earth up, and depending on how hot you heat the oil, the crude oil makes different kinds of products. So you see on the little thermometer that if you heat it between 40 to 75 degrees Celsius, then that's going to be gasoline. You heat it even more, and that makes jet fuel. You heat it even more, then it makes heating oil that you could use to heat your house. And then you heat it more, it makes diesel fuel. Then you can have grease and wax. And then the hottest is whenever you're making asphalt to like pave the roads. So at the different levels that you can heat that crude oil are the different products that you would make with that crude oil. Okay, and then let's talk about the last type of renewable energy, which is called natural gas. So natural gas is a mixture of methane. We remember that methane comes out of both ends of a cow whenever we were talking about the gases in the atmosphere and other gases. So natural gas is a mixture of methane and other gases, and it forms from some of the same organisms as oil. So natural gas is less dense than oil. So natural gas often rises above an oil deposit and forms a pocket of gas in the rock. So natural gas is less dense than oil, so often rises above an oil deposit and forms a pocket of gas in the rock. Okay. Now pipelines transport natural gas from its source to where it is going to be used. And natural gas has several advantages. It produces large amounts of energy, but less air pollution than coal or oil. But even though it says natural, you're not going to want to think that it's that renewable green energy because you might think green, oh, that means natural. And it doesn't really. It's just called natural gas, but it's not one of those clean energies. It just has less air pollution than coal or oil, but it still produces pollution. And because of those pipelines, the natural gas is also easy to transport. So that's an advantage for natural gas. But the disadvantages would be that natural gas is highly flammable. Okay, so flammable, you want to think of fire. Okay, so you can draw your little flame. So you know that flammable means fire. And a gas leak can cause a violent explosion or fire.